Greetings, OACP members. Each week I like to do a brief video update to give you an idea of some of the issues that are percolating, to give you an idea of what's going on and to try to do it in under 5 minutes. That's my goal, and then I will of course be sending you emails to follow up on each of these items so that you have the critical information you need to send to other folks in your agency or to refer to yourself. There's 4 issues I want to cover today. The first is the Osha infectious disease rulemaking process that's been underway. As you know, a draft rule was issued. OACP and OSSA submitted comments with concerns about the initial rule. It was very burdensome. As you know, there were 1,500 separate entities that submitted comments on the rule, that initial rule. On September 25th, OSHA issued their revised rule. It had some improvements. In particular, it removed the paid leave requirement for non-work related exposure to COVID-19. That was problematic, but the rule still remains administratively burdensome, costly, and in some cases, impossible to implement for law enforcement. There are also additional requirements for workplaces that are deemed at exceptional risk. Those include first responders and medical personnel. Unfortunately, law enforcement is included in the exceptional rule or risk category, and that means additional requirements. So as part of this rulemaking process, interestingly enough, OSHA has created what they call appendices that provide additional sector-specific clarifications and requirements that supplement or in some cases replace the general rule. In all, OSHA is drafting 28 separate appendices for a wide range of industries and workplaces. This last week, Jason Myers from OSSA and I met with OSHA Director Michael Wood. He is giving us an opportunity to draft the law enforcement appendix. We're working with our partners at OSSA, the League of Oregon Cities and Associated Oregon Counties, and we plan to submit the appendix tomorrow morning, trying to eliminate the most problematic portions of the rule so it can be implemented. I want to thank many of you who have taken time to provide comments regarding the rule and your concerns. I'm hopeful that OSHA will accept our recommended appendix, but we won't know until they respond to us. There's possible they could reject what we have to offer, or they may make changes. But I wanted to be clear about what we're doing on your behalf. Hopefully we'll be successful. The basic dates associated with the rule itself now have been pushed back a little bit. So they're expecting to adopt the rule now on October 21st, and then the rule will take effect 10 days later on November 1st. Second issue I want to cover today is the President Trump's executive order called the Safe Policing for Safe Communities executive order. Section 2 of that executive order basically restricts the U.S. Department of Justice discretionary grant funding only to those state, local, tribal, university, and college law enforcement agencies that have obtained credentials certifying that they meet certain mandatory standards on use of force. For each state, the U.S. Attorney General is charged with designating an independent credentialing body to certify that law enforcement agencies meet the conditions of eligibility now for the federal grants. In Oregon, thankfully, the Attorney General designated the Oregon Accreditation Alliance as the certifying entity. The OACP and the sheriffs have agreed to assist OAA with distributing and collecting the certification attestation letters from chiefs and sheriffs on behalf of their agencies. Our goal in Oregon will seek 100% participation. We think it'll look good for the state. The 2 mandatory conditions for certification are this: your agency use of force policies adhere to all applicable federal, state, and local laws, and your agency maintains use of force policies that prohibit the use of chokeholds, except in situations where the use of deadly force is allowed by law. And as you know, on that second point, Oregon just adopted a policy very similar to that already. It's already state law. So you will be receiving additional information and background from us soon on that, along with directions about what you need to do in terms of submitting an attestation statement. That'll be forthcoming. The third issue I want to bring up briefly is the firearms instant check system denials and investigations issue that's been raised because of budget cuts to Oregon State Police. During the 2022 special session, the legislature did reduce OSP's budget, and they eliminated the 5 trooper positions that make up the firearm background unit. As a result of the reduction, Superintendent Hampton informed OACP and OSSA that OSP would be no longer able to respond to gun dealers when a denial occurs, and that all calls for gun dealer background issues will now be reported to the agency of jurisdiction by OSP dispatch. That means your agencies. Yesterday, I sent out an email regarding the change in policy, along with a 36-slide denial investigation training PowerPoint that OSP developed. I want to be clear that OACP and OSSA did not support the elimination of the OSP firearms background unit or the shift of responsibility for these investigations to your agencies at a time when most of you are experiencing significant budget shortfalls. Our commitment to you is we're going to continue to work with our partners at OSP to identify potential options for addressing this. And we're also going to reach out to legislators that serve on the Ways and Means Subcommittee on Public Safety to seek a remedy. For now, your agencies will be receiving those calls. I assume you will have to respond to them based on your capacity. But we will continue to work on this, but I wanted to be clear about what happened there. And hopefully we'll be able to work something out that will be acceptable to everybody. The final issue I want to cover today has to do with an update on the Legislature's Joint Transparent Policing and Use of Force Reform Committee. As you know, that's a committee that forwarded legislation in both the first and the second special sessions, 6 new bills that we were able to support. They need work still to clarify some points within them, but we could live with them. That committee continues to work. There's a possibility we'll have a special session shortly after the general election on November 3rd. And if that's the case, there may be more bills coming our way. In the meantime, the committee has set up a series of work groups that are working on specific issues, and I wanted to let you know what they are. We have law enforcement representation on each of them. The first one is on the issue of doxing, the release of personal information for officers and for the public. That work group will be looking to see if there's a constitutional way of addressing that. Second, the uniform bill. As you know, that's crazy bill that was introduced that would have required all of your officers to wear a white shirt and blue slacks. Well, they backed way away from that, but they continue to want to look at restrictions on use of camouflage for law enforcement agencies. And so we're participating on that work group. The third looks at redefining the definition of riot. As you know, in the first special session, a bill was passed that tied riot to the use of tear gas. And so before you could use tear gas in a civil disturbance that becomes violent, you have to determine that a riot has occurred. The definition for riot is a little bit vague. And so there is a work group looking at that definition and frankly, at the conditions under which tear gas should be used. We've participated in that all along, and we think there may be a path to accomplish something that works for all of us on that one. The fourth deals with issues surrounding Brady. It is a comprehensive series of bills looking at everything from due process for police officers to other issues regarding Brady. As you know, several years ago now, we had a large Brady work group that put together a best practice policy framework on Brady. We're back into discussions about Brady again. There are some positives and there's some issues and policies that we won't support, but I'll keep you posted on that as well. And then finally, there is a work group that's supposed to start regarding collective bargaining and issues, again, related to how we deal with officers that are returned to work after an arbitrator makes a decision that they do not support the chief's or sheriff's disciplinary decision. That's it for this week. I hope I kept within 5 minutes. I hope all of you are safe and well. I deeply respect the work you do and the work of your agencies. And I wish you best for the rest of the week. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me if you have any questions, and keep an eye on your inbox. I'll be sending you some additional information soon. Thanks so much, and we'll talk to you later.